Welcome to Our Paramotor Nation. Tonight's show is sponsored by Wisconsin Flight Sports. They make it affordable and accessible for you to get your paramotor training. They are stocked with SkyMax paramotors, one of the best paramotors available, and they are ready to be shipped to you today. Wisconsin Flight Sports has just announced a special class in Gulf Shore, Alabama, February 12th through the 21st. Go to their website for more details. Check out Paraswag USA for your complete powered paragliding gear, Source providing you with the new Rebel 2 RS paramotor, as well as other gear and accessories. JK Custom Carves is a father and daughter run small business taking your vision and immortalizing it forever on wood, plastic, or aluminum. With extremely affordable pricing, this creation makes a great gift and trophy for any paramotor enthusiast. Find JK Custom Carves on Facebook or click on their link on the Our Paramotor Nation website. iFly Indiana provides USPPA certified powered paragliding training on their equipment or on yours. Full-time classes are 7 to 9 days. Part-time classes are also available. Come out to Indiana and see how beautiful it can be to train. Take the next big step in your paramotor training at Skylab Paramotor SIV. Here, paramotor pilots of all skill levels will learn collapse recovery and advanced maneuvers. One-Up Adventures and ParamotorProps.com. Come share their passion for flight on adventure trips around the world. Additionally, they are a supplier of carbon fiber propellers in the U.S. at extremely low prices and have become a leader in the country for getting tandem training and exemptions. FlyMyPPG offers a full-service paramotor training experience with 3 on-site instructors and class sizes limited to 6 students, all on a beautiful private 90-acre airport. FlyMyPPG offers on-site lodging and RV camping. Space is limited, so don't wait to make your reservation. And don't miss the upcoming scheduled classes combining the efforts of One-Up Adventures and FlyMyPPG at Wauchula Airport, January 23rd through the 31st, February 20th through the 28th, and March 20th through the 28th. Check out their websites to get your spot before they are filled. More than just soap, Charlie Soap has all-natural laundry detergents and household cleaners like no others. They are a supporter of Resurgence PPG. Get all the natural cleaning supplies you need at charliesoap.com. Celebrating their 10th anniversary, the team at FlyPPG Discovered Power Paragliding has helped people from around the world get into our great sport. They are the Midwest importers and distributors of adventure paramotors, trikes, and wings. Aviator Paramotor is a cornerstone for paramotor training while offering its students some of the top paramotoring equipment. With 2 locations in beautiful Florida, class availability has never been more convenient. With raving reviews, Lone Star Paramotor has become one of the most sought-out paramotor schools in the South, near San Antonio, Texas, offering foot launching and trike training classes and much more. Light up the skies with PPG lights and make one heck of an impression with countless patterns and colors on your paramotor. No aircraft can miss seeing you when you are flying at twilight with PPG lights. Nebraska Paramotor strives to be a central resource hub for the community training just southeast of Springfield, Nebraska. They will help you select the best paramotor, glider, and other accessories suited for your flying style. Wicked Wings logo can help you have a one-of-a-kind custom glider with one or multiple colors on your logo. Get all the information you need to order your logo today on the Our Paramotor Nation website. That's www.ourparamotornation.com. And while you're there, check out Our Paramotor Nation's upcoming shows, watch our past shows, and visit all of our sponsors and find out much, much more. And now, let's get started with Our Paramotor Nation.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Our Paramotor Nation. David Wolf here. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. This Sunday night, we have Dave Henning's going to be joining us here in just a second. We had such a busy week. It was an awesome week spending time down in Florida with a lot of my friends. 2 of them are going to be joining us here in just a moment. Well, let's bring him on, Rob. First of all, we got John Rickman riding. He is back from the dead. A lot of people were thinking something happened to my buddy John Rickman riding because someone put out a tribute video. John, tribute doesn't mean you're dead, does it?
No, it does not, David. And I'm here to tell you, I'm still alive.
Yes. And you know what else, John? What have you been saying to me all week?
We're not going to take it.
Not going to take it. We're not going to take it anymore, John.
So what's up, everybody? Super excited to have Dave Hanning on as a guest. We got a lot of great questions to ask him. And whatever you guys want to ask, put it in the chat and we'll ask him directly.
And John, thank you so much for bringing Dave onto the show. You trained with Dave. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about his training as well as what he has to say about you. But let's also bring in trike flyer Dave Ruff, who has just in this pre-show said to us, I don't know if I'll ever foot launch again. Come on in here, Dave Ruff. Where are you, buddy?
We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take.
All right.
I don't know if I'm ever gonna foot launch again. I am enjoying this trike.
Products slash cruiser, and that's awesome. That's awesome, buddy. It's good to see you. It's so much fun hanging out with you. Before we bring David,
Hey, Dave, how did you like that egg?
the egg was delicious. I wore my sweatshirt the other day and I saw the stain. So thank you, John Ripa, for spitting an egg all over my hoodie, my favorite hoodie. But that's, you know what? Then I realized it already has stains because that's the hoodie I was wearing when I went into the river and got covered with dirt.
I'm telling you, man, you need to like auction that thing off.
Hey, I want to make a couple quick announcements. So first of all, one of our sponsors, first of all, thank you to all the sponsors. You saw them there. That song is starting to get a little catchy. Also, thanks to all of you watching tonight, 64 people currently in the chat. I'm sure we're going to be much, much more than that. But here's some great news. I talked to Andy Fuller of Skylab, and Andy is going to start doing reserve repacks. So I know that's something a lot of people, and Robert Michaels mentions it on Thursday nights, that March is the time to get your reserve repacked. Well, if everybody did it in March, holy cow, you'd be waiting a while. So get it in now. Skylab is now doing reserve packs, $45 for rounds and $55 for squares. You can go to the Skylab Paramotor website. That can also be found through a link on the Our Paramotor Nation website. And it's under the SIV course. You'll find it, and you can go ahead and pay right there and get all the instructions. Since I mentioned Paragliding Talk, they're on Thursday nights. Dave Ruff, of course, in 2 nights from tonight. 3 nights? 3 nights from tonight on Wednesday nights with After Dark. Didn't have one last week, but he's going to be doing this week. And while we're at it, let's mention Claire Prop is also tomorrow night. And they're going to be hosting a friend of ours, very good friend of ours from One Up Adventures. She's the newest member, and she's actually going to be on our show here in a couple weeks as well. And that's Allie. Andrea Yancey's going to be on as well. So check out those shows. A lot of good stuff out there. All right. One last thing, too, before we bring Dave in. Got a prize tonight. Dave's running the prize wheel. He's putting all these names in. Dave, you should have about 67 names in the chat. Right. At the end of the show, we'll get a choice. You can have these COVID masks. Get them before you're not needing them anymore. This is from Fly PPG. Or if you'd like, you can have a T-shirt from One Up Adventures. Or lastly, just like I'm wearing here, a Fly My PPG T-shirt. Your choice tonight to the winner whose name comes up on the wheel. All right. Oh, and lastly, next week, our guest is going to be Greg Anthony Harris. He's going to be live in the Our Paramotor Nation studios. So it's been a while since he's been on the show, and he's just had an epic year since he's last been on.
Wow, that's going to be a good show.
It will be. But right now, let's focus our attention on bringing in Dave Hanning. Dave Hanning is the owner of Sky Camp in Tennessee. I would say the name of the city, but Dave, I can't even pronounce the name of the city. Go ahead and bring your screen on as well. Go ahead and share your video. There you go. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me. I really
Welcome,
appreciate
Dave.
it. Thank you, Ripa. Nice to see you guys again.
What's the name of the city in Tennessee where Fly Camp is located?
Well, so we're here in the Sequatchie Valley of Tennessee, and the town of Dunlap is one site, where then the second site is above the town of Whitwell. And so I'm not sure which one you're having the trouble with.
It's not Dunlap.
Yeah, and so down in Whitwell, there is some just discrepancy depending on which accent you listen to, but Whitwell is an old mining town, so a quiet little place that has a beautiful east-facing launch, and that's where we do most of our work.
Awesome.
Dave, say it with me. Sequatchie.
Sequatchie.
So Dave has been he's been in paragliding for 20 plus years.
That's right.
Owner of Fly Camp. They do instruction. He does a heck of a lot more. We're going to get to all that. So here's the good news for me is that I don't paraglide, but I want to paraglide. Whereas John and Dave both paraglide and they love it. So, there's two different audiences. The people that already paraglide, they're going to have questions for you. And also the people who really want to get into paragliding. And that's going to be people like me that are lack of the knowledge of that. So those are the type of questions that are going to be coming at you. Tell us how you got into the sport 20 plus years ago first.
Yeah, so interesting. I was a mountain guide, a rock climbing guide, a mountaineer, an alpinist, backcountry skier, heli ski guide. I was pretty active outdoors in Utah, chasing the dream, living like a bum out of the van is what we considered it back then, fringe society dweller. Now it's sort of a fashion deal to live in your van. But the chasing of the nonstop recreation in the mountains led me to have odd jobs like carpentry and remodeling a house in Utah. I finally succumbed to an individual who I was working with who had just started flying paragliders, learning to fly paragliders with Cloud9 there at the point of the mountain. And he dragged me down to take me in a tandem on a day where there really was like almost no wind at all. And we arrived at the south side of the point of the mountain. And because I had this background in climbing and mountaineering, I got two sledder flights, really quick laps that I knew right after the first one that I was going to pay to have lessons, but they gave me a second one. And I had deferred away from paragliding because as an ice climber alpinist, I considered paragliding to be too dangerous previously, several years earlier. So now it must have, once I got in the air, I just knew that I could not do it anymore. So I was all in and maxed out my credit card right there. And thanks to Steve Mayer at Cloud9, I began my journey into this world of flying up in the sky, you know, both without and with a motor.
So how long were you flying before you decided to go into instructing and then on to owning your own school?
Well, it's been a long journey to get to owning my own school, but it started with just needing to be making some money, and having a regular job didn't fit the description. I was at noon always hiking the hill to get to the launch to fly the mountains in the afternoon. I couldn't hold a regular job. I was too busy getting a sky crack, as some of these guys are calling it in the paragliding world now. And so I would, of course, naturally just accelerated to tandem flying. So I was doing tandem flights, and that was never enough. So if you were around the mountain on the early morning, you could do the teaching. And so I segued into teaching. It was easy. You live in your van, you wake up, you step outside the van, you're already on the south side. So easy to teach. So while I was a dirtbag climbing guide, I did this formula that it became the formula. I quit doing the mountaineering, and I even stopped chasing the climbing and the ice climbing, and became consumed by the flying, which of course the van and the point of the mountain became a little limitation. We traveled quite a bit and chased different jobs down in Sun Valley, Idaho. I did tandems there. I did tandems in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and that coincided with, let's just be at a place where there's flying happening so I could get better at flying. In fact, that's why I went to Sun Valley in the first place, because I knew it was a really big deal mountains, and I was going to get scared, and I was going to learn a lot chasing the big up high in the sky dreams, cross country flying without the motor.
Did the tandem teaching get you more flying hours, like more time on the mountain? Like,
well,
were they paying you to do that, or you were doing it, you know, just to do it?
Yeah, I guess there's a little ego involved in being a tandem pilot, and we all thought we'd, you know, find the hot chick, and it was just, you know, dirtbag, and it was a way to make some spare change while we were hanging around. I certainly flew a lot because of it, and I flew a lot of places. Like I spent several years in Nepal doing tandems there and for the tourist market, and so you were forced to fly air that maybe you wouldn't choose as a solo pilot. And I had advanced skills as a competition pilot and chasing the cross country. So flying the tandem was easy, but, you know, to ensure the safety of the passenger, it kind of brings the next level of respect into operating the tandem. And we certainly had some near misses in the big mountains and in tandem, and some good stories associated with taking people on big cross country tandems, teaching them. And it became a really big tool though. So it's kind of like a big school bus. And when you learn to drive it, and you can really help people accelerate within the educational side of things, you know. So as I segued from tandem to becoming more teacher, and then I traveled around the world and jumped into Nepal and India, some of these places. I taught over there how to fly to a lot of really great friends of mine in Nepal, especially, and they're now tandem pilots and school owners. And so the story goes, where did I get to be the school owner? I ended up in Tennessee kind of on a lark, as my wife, who's from Moscow and an accomplished pilot also, she preferred the countryside here in Tennessee. It reminded her of her home. And so with the kids coming, we were setting up shop, staying close to my mom and dad and family. And we got invited actually to teach here on the property by the landowner, a man named Rick Jacob, and visionary for having the foresight to purchase and secure these mountain launches that I'm an owner of one of them, and we work off of the other sites. They've called them Just Fly SBS flight parks here in the Sequatchie Valley.
That's amazing how you ended up there. Just the
Yeah, super
story.
lucky, Ripa. Super
Yeah,
lucky, man.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Good
what to
things
say.
happen to good people, so maybe that's the reason.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How long do those tandem flights usually last? As a paramotor basic flight instructor, we're given about a 30-minute tandem flight. How long are you doing
Wow,
this?
cool.
Yeah.
Well, so here in Tennessee, of course, we have a couple different varieties of tandem flights, but our basic flight, we have top to bottom. The shortest time would be 7 minutes if you went straight for it. And given that sometimes we have little kids and it's a big deal, or individuals where it's a really big deal just to get off the ground, that I have people that only want to do that, but that's just, they're scared to go up high in the sky. So what the pilots want to do is different than what the weather lets them do, but usually they're shooting for about that 20 to 30 minute mark on a flight. And that's because they want to get up high and stay around and kind of make command of the sky, and then go out maybe with a little altitude to throw some acro down. But you know, we're typically booking our tandems in the middle of the day at noon, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, to take advantage of the thermal strength and the extra power of the heat of the day, so that we can get connected to cloud base up high. And of course, we do offer cross-country tandems, and those are you have to be flexible with the weather, but when we get the right day, you know, an hour in the sky, and maybe you go from Dunlap to Whitwell, which is about a 30-minute by car trip down the valley.
I tried that. Excuse me, Dave. I tried that. I got halfway, Dave Hanning.
Yeah, buddy. I remember.
I gave it a good, if I got a little further, I think I might have found some more lift. But,
I'm sure next time you'll go a lot further, you know.
I'm going for it next time, yeah.
Yeah, man. Now, this is a great valley for it. We're really got generous landowners all around with green fields, some crops and some animals, but easy to avoid, and lots of safe conditions. The weather is generous because of our lower elevation. So we're pretty lucky to be able to chase the cross-country, unmotorized strategies of sailing in the sky, if you will.
What do you typically charge for those tandems, for the shorter flights and then for the long cross countries?
Well, so the tandem flights are $200, and when we go up $300 for a big cross country flight for the time in the year. These are instructional. Also, we do a lot of teaching in tandem. So when people come to us and they're saying, I want to learn how to thermal, or I want to learn how to stay up in the sky to soar, we'll get out of the ground and established in the sky, and allow them to be in control of the tandem. And thus we can provide input about their pitch, roll, yaw control right in the moment, as well as strategies of why we would pursue this turn over that turn. And so it makes them relax too, if you can just have conversations. So tandem's extremely effective. And
I've never seen tandem for paragliding. Are they basically sitting on your lap the entire time? Obviously, in a paramotor, you know, you're either foot launching, so you've got about a foot between you and your passenger, or if you're at a strike, obviously there's two seats. What's that like?
We do the same kind of a spreader bar scenario. So yeah, about a foot on the big spreaders, or you can go soft spreaders and have next to no. So it is two harnesses, separate harnesses, and the pilot does sort of straddle or saddle the passenger, but in a good way, that it's not uncomfortable. So the passenger's the windshield, of course, and they got the good view, and you got to see over the passenger. But it's easy to launch with the foot, you know, not very hard to dance. And if they resist, you can always bully and push them off, you know.
So we have a question in the chat here. Chris Fenimore, he says, you know, with doing the tandems, He says, I have seen triples in other countries. Have you ever considered doing a triple, or as he calls it, a threesome?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we did a bunch of those, not here in the United States because of the legalities associated with conducting the commercial on the exemptions available. But in India or in Nepal is where I did them the most. Really common to say a mom and a little small child or a couple of kids together. And that just because there wasn't any rules regarding that, to do a tandem, that's what we call it. And
Random.
yeah, the packing boys in Nepal, they were the best. If you didn't have a third round or something, you grab a couple of the packing boys, and so you get a big one and he'd grab a little one, and inevitably you'd be in the sky and the little one would be crying or something because he was a little bit freaked out about being in the sky, and the big one would be telling him to shut up, otherwise I'd go down and land. But we would always give away these, all the pilots did it, we'd give away these flights to these local kids who did all the packing for us, and then we were commercial entity there, so just minimum 3 flights a day, and rock stars and stuff, and these kids all wanted to grow up and be tandem pilots, and ironically now they are. It's pretty cool. They didn't go on to school and college and stuff, but they make more money than their mom and dad ever did, so it's pretty neat.
Cool. Last week we had Alex Ledger as a guest, and he's out in the United Kingdom.
Yeah,
Alex, and he actually said to say hello to you.
it's a goodbye. Yeah. Hey, mate.
And so he does tours in other countries. Of course, he's got Help for Heroes that he works with. One of our sponsors, One Up Adventures, they do guided tours as well with the paramotors, but it also with Fly Camp, you also do guided tours, and you keep mentioning Nepal. Tell us a little bit about the guided tours, the international tours that you do that Fly Camp offers.
Yeah, sure. Well, so everybody that works here has some kind of a unique connection with different places in the world. We have one guy that works in New Zealand, for instance, and has had some people go with him there. So when you have that kind of convenient connection, friendly atmosphere, then it makes it easy to run a tour safely. And that's the big thing with the paragliding in, say, the third world countries like India or Nepal. To have the localized connections and to be familiar enough to know who to call to get any help in the event of an incident. But going into it, of course, having proper preparedness prevents piss poor performance, and being the Boy Scout that I am, I've always been the mountain guide, and the places I go end up being the places I take my friends to share and show. So with Nepal, I was over there mostly doing the tandems, and there was a smattering of friends that would come and learn and fly with me there. And so natural extension of being a guide would be to then, hey, let's see how far we can fly along the mountain range, or how many days can we chase me around in the sky and I'll teach you cross country. That's a real common formula. And in the course of I guess the 20 years I've been flying, I ended up in Bir, India, which is one of the most amazing mountain locations for flying paragliders that exists on the planet.
Wow.
And I've not seen them all, but I can't imagine, whoops, sorry guys. I can't imagine that there would be anything easier and more perfect. And it's a huge range, and you can just cruise along and top land here, camp, and go over the back, way up high, big majestic mountains, and then come back and top land and have a night. And so you can do this vol bivy style, super pure. It's the reason the paragliding magic without the motor, and it's the ultimate. But it is the big, takes a lot of experience to do this stuff. And so we offer guided trips to India as one of our favorite. Yeah, I think you can see behind me, there's some flags from India and some posters and stuff. We spend about a month there every year, except this year. We've been going for the last decade, and a lot of great friends that we meet up there. It's a really international scene. So we get houses, and those that come with us, it's never a short 1 week trip. That doesn't work out for India or Nepal, really. And you need to commit to the time of, I like to say 3 weeks is about perfect.
Wow. Yeah.
And then you get a really deep, steep into the culture, and you find out how friendly and easy it is there. But the air quality, and when you go up the mountain, and it's 30-minute sled ride. I mean, maybe it's a 20-minute sled ride, but from top to bottom, it's massive relief, and anybody can figure out thermaling there. So, we take beginners and we start with, hey, here's some basic thermaling strategies to how do we get, first would be highest, and then we can think about longest flights. But by the time people are coming with us to India, they're usually a bit more intermediate, and we're trying to set routes, how far down the range we can go and come back. But if we land out, we take a taxi and have this crazy, incredible India adventure. And of course, it's extremely cheap. And all the things that people have that they're afraid of, they go melting away, and you get a radical shift and change. But that's true for the flying, not just the culture side of India. So that's one of our favorite places to go personally. My wife and we take our kids, and we have comps there. It's advanced flying scene. I mean, you might look on YouTube and see some old videos that don't display the best side of tandem flying, for instance, in Manali. But now there's quite a high level of skill, and there's a huge tandem scene there too. So we don't do any of that, but we do arrive with the international clientele, and we hang out up on the mountains, and we go vol bivy from hut to hut. There's a one place called the 360 camp that's like a bed and breakfast up in the mountains. So it's become quite a scene that we love to take friends and introduce them to, and sort of change their whole world, as well as have this amazing flying experience. And then the same thing holds true. Like we look for, like now I'm stuck here in Tennessee, and the weather's so a little cold, some days not so bad. We would usually be heading south to Costa Rica, where we do the living on the beach and the surf sunset scene. But we also have a mountain site that's just above the beach line on the west coast, and it's Costa Verde, super green and jungle and lush. And we fly cloud-based really easily. It's a generous site, super beginner place, and then land on the beach. And it is the vacation, if I could never.
That's got to be awesome. That's on my bucket list. I can't wait till this COVID stuff is gone and we can do that trip. That
Rip, I'm counting on you, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm in. Don't worry.
My partner's there now, and with the kids
list.
And family, I'm holding out till this COVID scenario stretches into solid. But the landing on the beach is just magic. And so it's not the most epic cross country. We can go there inland in Costa Rica. So there's a bunch of flying options there. We can get really core flying in a thermal sense. There's an advanced kind of paramotoring scene up in the Jaco area. So there's a whole bunch of flying sites that we can jump around to. So we do some tours there as well, but we're pretty focused on that one when we're there. Just on this one location, we hardly leave. It's fish, seafood, beach, cocktails for sunset, surfing with the kids, and then morning flights. We go up at 9 a.m. and then we land for lunch, and have
You're
lunch.
probably driving everybody in the chat crazy. A lot of people dealing with snow and not flying, and you're talking about a beautiful area to be flying.
Sorry. Well, if I showed you pictures, it'd be bad for sure.
Oh yeah. Let's get back to your school. I'd like to ask you a quick question. When I went there, I had a fantastic experience. I felt all the instructors were super helpful. I didn't feel like, I was an outcast and they looked down on me. I felt welcomed, and I just wanted to see, about your instructors. I met, most of the instructors, and we did a barbecue on July 4th, and I just had a really great experience. So I just wanted to, let you talk a little bit about, the school and the, all the good instructors you have and how you found them all.
Yeah, I'm super lucky, Ripa. Just like I've got really great, talented, intelligent instructors that some found me, to be fair. I came to Tennessee because my parents were in North Carolina. And so as my wife and I entered and we're here in the country, we had our first child, Alex. We were started off in North Carolina, but complexities of having a school and I needed a job, so we were going where I already had friends and employment. That's out west in Utah, and we in Idaho and Wyoming. And so I was always out west for so many years that we were on the way through Tennessee. We stopped off and saw it, and then ultimately my wife just decided that she liked it there best, and a lot cheaper than Jackson Hole, I have to admit.
I would imagine.
So I was a little perplexed by that because I was always like, big mountains, got to be at the big mountains. But we made our place here because of family decisions. And we had a gentleman, Rick Jacob, like I mentioned earlier, legend in flying and hang gliding and paragliding now. He was generous enough to offer, hey, do you want to teach on my property? And I'm like, who does that? You know, with the complexities of free flight in the United States and having permission to operate on properties, I thought, well, I better pay attention. There's something here going on. So
That's
we're about
gold right there.
well, yeah, I didn't know what it was until I was like,
Mhm.
let's just give it a try. And
Yeah.
so we set up, took an apartment from Rick, and here right at the mountain at Henson Gap at the like I'm 1 minute walk across the street. I'm on the launch, and it was like a lot of work because we were clearing land and stuff. But people came to me. I didn't even say, here I am, I'm open or anything. I just had only just arrived, and people came to me, and I was like, whoa, what's this about? And so it was just me. Well, it was a lot of hustle the first year. I figured out how to launch you as the student and then fly myself faster than you and land so I could be there to coach you in for your landing. And like this was some of the strategies we employed until we had the driver or my wife or someone that was a pilot working with us that would play the second hand. And it's like the second year I recruited my buddy, Brian Peterson, who's out in Utah. It's a phenomenal instructor and tandem pilot, a wicked talent. I mean, you know, and I just knew I had to have talent if I was going to be here to prove that we could do this right and do it safe, because we were being scrutinized so heavily by the others that have been here for 40 plus years. This is the center of the universe for hang gliding. And Dunlap, the city itself, has the name on the sign. It says hang gliding capital of the East. So as the paraglider here, I knew that I was you know, pioneering terrain, so to speak. There was someone else before me out of Atlanta, Luis Rosinger with Atlanta Paragliding, but he's now since moved on to retirement. And and there's other people that popped up, but we kind of grew into this nice rhythm where with Brian and myself, we were able to handle the little bits that we had going on. And we found that we had this amazing flying site, and I had no idea. I mean, I had a little inkling because I introduced myself with this place way back in 2010, and in like June or July, I did a flight here. But before we moved here, like 7 years ago, I had no idea how great the flying was in this valley.
Isn't
And
that amazing? Yeah.
it's incredible. It's even better for flying paragliders than it ever was for hang gliding. And we fly all the time. I started to be like, wow, we fly more than the point of the mountain, and we have more variety. You know, we're soaring and we're thermaling, and so it's not the same. You know, can't compare it to point of the mountain or any of the other sites. But green grass, grassy launches. I was like, wow, we're really this is like gold for sure.
Yeah.
And I had a South African pilot come and tell me just that. He's like, oh my gosh, you know, you don't have any idea what you have here. And I kind of knew, but you know, for sure, this is a super lucky place.
Here in Tennessee?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Are you flying year round in Tennessee?
Yeah, we are. And we have been. I mean, I would go away in January, February, March with the family. We'd hit Costa Rica, be on the beach and sandals and, you know, warm weather. And I'd get the phone call or the text message or the Facebook message. Hey, I just landed. I did 3 hours, Chris. That would be New Year's Eve. And so the guys that I taught would be here and when I wasn't around. And we didn't really have, I mean, it's pretty quiet in Tennessee in the wintertime. And we're at the end of the road. And so there's definitely not going to be anything happening unless we're making it happen. But slowly, we started to get to the point like we have been for now. This is our third season that we've been open year round teaching. And every month we've had students coming, new students signing up and joining us and beginning their journey into understanding weather and how to fly, how to thermal, how to ridge soar, launch correctly and safely, so that they can become that person traveling around the world with the backpack on their back, which is what really is the coolest part about the paraglider from my perspective, is that I can put it in the overhead of the airplane and be
Sure.
India or pick a country and you're going to find paragliding there. I mean, maybe they're towing or maybe they're using motors, but we're flying.
It's awesome. Dave, I want to change the questions a little bit. I want to talk about, as John was saying, about the school. So I'm a paramotor pilot. I am considering getting into paragliding. By the way, before I say that, how often do you fly with a motor on your back?
Well, it's been a while, actually. I haven't had a motor on my back for quite a while, but back in the day, we motored a bit around the Salt Lake City. It was quite popular. Chris Santa Croce introduced me to motoring for my first time way back.
Cool. All right.
So I'm not a motor guy, and but I put one on and I'll fly away with it, no problem.
Okay. So I'm a motor guy. I'm thinking about doing this. All my friends have told me, oh my gosh, once you do paragliding, you're not going to want to do paramotoring again. So first question is what benefits as a paramotor pilot going into paragliding? How am I going to come out of that a better paramotor pilot? What skills will I take away to make me a better paramotor pilot?
Well, I think that, first, paramotoring is a specific discipline in the paragliding realm of flying the aircraft that we have. And certainly we understand that there's some different designs to the aircraft. So the big equation that I understand from a paraglider's perspective, who chooses to fly rowdy conditions, midday conditions, for the power of the energy of the Earth, the rising heat, to get the distance and altitude to do the gliding. Whereas we see the powered paragliding community primarily choosing that smooth quality of air that we see in the mornings and the evenings, and avoiding a midday. And there's a lot of talk about how the midday is dangerous. Yes, and I'm going to agree with that. But I think so is flying in general. And when we understand what we're doing, how to control the glider, understand how to see the invisible. That's a lot what we do in the paragliding world is play the game of chess with Mother Nature. And I know that a lot of the powered paragliding pilots that I've worked with have come specifically to understand how that midday dynamic air mass is something that they can safely negotiate. So number one, we're right off the bat looking to accelerate your ability to manage your glider with that comprehension of the invisible and how to use that to your advantage. And then we also find it really a significant factor to work hard on how to launch safely. And when we dial up your launching sequence for free flight, it applies directly to your powered motor launching as well. It is a calibration ultimately, to boil it down to the essence, is if you're really good at kiting, then launching's easy. And that's no wind or big wind. It shouldn't matter if you're totally in control of that balance of the glider, and you have that anticipation of the movement, so you can use it to your advantage. There's a lot going on there in the beginning for a beginner, but like a powered paraglider person comes to us, they have a regimented launching sequence, and we try to build on that, make it easier and safer for you to foot launch. And then once you're out in the sky, the capturing of that energy without the motor, how can we do that safely? How can we do that intelligently? Because it is a game of chess with the weather, but it's also about posture, position. Without the motor, I got to make sure I can glide there. And reality, without a motor, this is probably the way I look at it, and the way when people ask me, I say, first you should learn how to fly the paraglider, and then you should apply the motor, because it'll be easy to add the motor when you know how to use the paraglider. Say the same thing about the speed wing too. We're like, learn to fly first, the paraglider.
I agree with that statement. That's a great statement, because if you can fly the paraglider, the motor is just another piece of the machine, of the craft.
I don't have to think about the wing, and then I can focus on the motor, and I won't trip over myself. I mean, it's a big spinning apparatus back there, and got to respect it. And so if I don't have to think about the wing because I'm just so good at kiting, then I can really optimize the pitch of that glider as I add thrust and make clean takeoff. Same's going to happen on the mountain launch.
Dave, Daniel, the chat, and he asked a question a little while ago. He said, "How difficult is it to transition from PPG foot launch to free flight?" So I want to piggyback off that question as well. You know, does it depend on the pilot? And then here's the second question: when you see that you've got a guy coming in or a lady coming in to train with you, you see that they are a paramotor pilot, is that something that makes you go, "Oh, sweet, this one's going to be easy," or "Oh, damn, I'm going to have to break down what this person's already learned and retrain them to do it this way"?
Yeah. So a little bit like everybody's got preconceived notions coming in. I can say that the skydivers come in with really heavy hands, and the paramotor guys come in already having knowledge. And what I know they're missing is like that comprehensive understanding of the weather. So we always break through boundaries, and we all have got egos, and we got to figure out how that we communicate intelligently. So that's the crux for me. I don't see the PPG guys come in and we're like, oh, sweet, it's going to be easy, because we've got to find the personality, and that personality has to adopt, a character has to adopt to the safety of flying the paraglider without the motor. And some people are like, yeah, you're a Yahoo, you know, I mean, we can all name names about famous Yahoo and with motors, but the truth is they're cowboying or something. But yeah, the reality is if we teach you how to be safe, how to see and understand the weather, how to be in the proper position and posture in the sky, like most motor guys get it pretty quick. You guys, you got the comprehension of how to keep the glider open and flying, and you're like, I know self-preservation, I'm going to land in this location. We talk strategy, and usually we're really trying to just get good at sailing in the sky, connecting that weather, and it's seeing the weather and knowing the weather from the internet to the sky, and then timing how to see it, to connect to it, and proper position to take advantage of the winds and such to get the long flights. And that's what we're trying to do when the guys come to us, is make sure that you can get in that middle day grind and get kicked around and like that. So
You said
I saw a question about cost.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Right.
You mentioned a few moments ago about learning how to fly the glider and learning that glide and where it's going to get you, because with the motor you could just push and move a little bit faster.
So nice.
We had a question earlier from Mark H, and he said when he's watching videos of paragliding paragliders, he says it seems that they don't always take into account having an out. They're flying low over trees and rocks and things like that. Is that something that you're teaching, is always have an out, which is one of the first things we learn in paramotoring?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we're always teaching have an out, and then after that, you're going to do what you want to do, and we see this low and go the strategy. So to be sure, we have some iconic individuals in flying, like Kriegel Maurer, and we always say, what would Kriegel do? He's very talented at skimming across the tops of the trees, using the texture turbulence of the airflow and the heat flow along the tops of the trees to elongate a glide as he cruises down a valley. And so when we start to go without a motor, and we're working on the micro eddies and flows that are associated with the heat rising, the wind, we can do stuff really low safely. And then it is a calculated gamble. Now, I've seen plenty of it work out just fine, and I've seen it work out not well. So if you're overcommitted and you got no glide out, my opinion is you messed up. And that's one of those things we're working on, is bringing that comprehension when you're in the sky to say, yeah, I'm in that place where I'm getting close to I'm going to mess up. So let me get out of here before I'm in the I messed up spot, And that's without the throttle. That's one of the things that the motor guys need a little extra encouragement to keep the eyes open about that position.
All right. So I'm a paramotor pilot, and depending on what kind of gear I want, what kind of training I'd like to get, just how much I want to spend on that, I've just spent anywhere from $8,000 to $14,000, right?
Yep.
Now I want to do paragliding, and my wife is yelling at me because she doesn't want to spend any more money, but I'm going to do it anyways. So what are the costs involved? What kind of equipment do I need?
Well, so I mean, you can use the motor stuff, and it can work. It's not going to be as effective, and you're not going to find the performance equal fun. I mean, this is about fun from my perspective. It's a fun ticket. And so if you buy the product that's designed for the performance of unmotorized, because the motor definitely adds thrust, and so the wing's designed to handle that. I think, like we talk about getting away from the low B category wing, and as we get to high B and up, we get the performance of the product built in, and that's the fun tickets go through the roof. So you're looking at a wing and a harness and a reserve specific to doing gliding under the paraglider non-powered. It's going to run you $5,500, and we can go up from there as the wings get more expensive as we get into the C, the D category of performance. So, when I'm looking at the $5,000 new gear, I could break that down and say the wing's probably around $4,000. There's about $1,000 in the harness and reserve. When we look at having a pod harness, which is
how much harness in the reserve?
You spend about $1,000, $1,200 depending on what we get. If we go the lowest budget, you can spend $1,000 and have a harness and reserve. It's pretty good, and wing being about $4,000. So, but you can spend $2,000 on a pod harness, and you can spend $1,000 on a super ultra lightweight reserve, and so you can get really techie with the gear to go for the performance side of the equation. Since that's really where the most inefficient aircraft out there. We're really all about reducing the drag and getting ultra uber light equipment, being super performance oriented. And once you've got the skill set, you can move up into some of these gliders, the glide, the reach that you have, penetration into wind. It's phenomenal design going on right now on the paraglider wing in terms of performance, and where we're seeing the two-line gliders starting to come down to a recreational category. So a lot of what used to be unobtainable performance is now in the hands of the layman, and you see it directly in the designs released in the last year or two, where we get into wind performance, stability, pitch stability. The gliders are easier. They're easier to launch. They're easier to fly, and they're more fun to fly for sure.
I can imagine how far it's come since you started 20 years ago. The bed sheets you guys were flying back then. Right?
Yeah.
Thick fabric, hard to launch, and
pair of panties and all these nicknames we had. I went to Chelan a couple times the last couple of years, and there was a big gap between my visits to Chelan, Washington, which is perhaps the greatest flying in the United States. It's arguable, but the Chelan has a real following. It's a superpower. It's really big. We do really long routes and courses. You're flying the mountains, you're flying the flats. The thermals, you can see these thermals because they're dust devils. So it's a really impressive place. I mean, we're spending 6 hours in the sky on a race course day. And I remember when we flew there, I was crapping my pants about the wing surging and collapsing, and and then nowadays I'm still crapping my pants about the power of that place, but the wings make it so much easier. I mean, I'm not really scared about the surge jump because the wing doesn't do that anymore. And it translates the turbulence different. You glide so much further. You're no longer stuck and going, oh crap, that thermal's sucking me down. There's a whole lot that has happened in design because of computers and the minds that have been at work at it, that it's so much more fun. And I was lamenting not about the loss, but the cowboy attitude, that we're a little bit cavalier about it now, because it really was a big deal way back then. I mean, we lost people, and we still have accidents. I'm not saying we won't. That's just not low and go and ego attitude in racing. But we go to these places that used to really drive fear in our hearts about flying the big middle of the day, and now we go and it's like we're giggling just to get in there because the gliders are so good. It's amazing.
So Dave, I want to go back to the cost for just a second, because that's always
Sure.
a big thing on people's minds. You've got a glider for about $5,500. You got the pod for another $2,000, so that's $7,500. The reserve, you're probably $9,000 there. And then now I'm a very big fan of a YouTube channel, a guy that flies out in California. He hosts a talk show on Monday night called Paragliding Talk. His name is Robert Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
And got a bunch of knickknacks in front of him, computers, this beepy thing going up and down. I think it's called a Vario, and he's got at least 2 GoPros, and that's $400 a pop. He's got one on the chase cam from PPG.
Yep.
All in. How much are we spending here?
Well, man, it can get crazy because people go top dollar on stuff where you got a phablet, and the phablet's $1,000, right? And that's my GPS, my Vario, my everything, and it's just my cell phone, and then I got the cell service that goes with that, and then the camera stuff is out of control for sure. I don't do that. I'm pretty nominal. I'm really minimalistic. I give me the really good glider, number one. And then after that, I want the harness that feels good. I don't need the most expensive one, and it can be used, that's okay. But I want the good reserve, so I'll spend the money there. And then on the instruments, it's going to be what packs well, because I'm always getting the lightweight stuff, and I just need it to beep so that I know I'm going up. I don't even care about the track log and all that stuff anymore. But I can use my phone for it. So I can get smaller and lighter weight. I don't have to be so techy and geeky and expensive. But I mean, man, if you want to spend money, there are instruments, the more expensive gliders, they exist. And you get one of them and you can tell design difference. There's a lot going on there for sure. How much do you want to spend? Is it usually what you get asked when you start talking
You
price,
know how that goes. You start with a couple things, then you want more and more, and you want several gliders for different conditions, and it's never ending.
We start low with literally a basic package, brand new, all gear. You're spending $5,000 to $5,500, and that's going to get you open cockpit, good harness, good reserve, good wing. And you're gonna be comfortable and happy for a couple of years while you figure out how to launch, fly, land correctly, sail in the sky, get up high, highest, longest flights. After you get 90, 100, 150 flights, if you're serious about cross country, then you're investing in the next level wing, the cross country harness, which is a pod harness, in minimum $1,000. Now we're seeing $2,200 harnesses. They got 2 reserves. This is racing equipment. And realistically, most of the people are looking, either I'm going to go all cross country, how far can I go? So I need, this is my Ferrari. So they're investing. Or it's a racing strategy. I'm going to go to races, so I have to have this harness because I can do 2 reserves, So now we're looking if you get $800 on a reserve, right? So, might as well. So 2 reserves, 2,000. Yeah. So it's supposed to be safer, but now it's heavier, bulkier, cost is prohibitive. I mean, it's not a poor man's sport, right? Aviation's never been a poor man's sport. And as a dirtbag climber trying to get in, I was that guy, like, used gear, and let me cut the corners, and it's a little soft, it's a little slow.
But you did it. You did it.
I did it. I did it.
And you learned.
I learned about the glider spinning and stalling too easily because it's old, and those were the days.
We can't hear you, Dave.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now you can.
So you're talking about the next glider. Well, Robert Michaels actually did ask this question. He says, what determines someone is ready to move up in class of wing?
Well, so it starts with the person. And most people are ready for a Ferrari before they know how to drive. So right off the bat, we can say the person has to want it, and then they have to have earned it. And by that, the respect to their peers, the person that's selling it to them, likely it has been the traditional sort of filter. Hey, is this person really ready? Oh yeah, I've watched and witnessed, and I see that they're responsible, and they're going to manage this glider, and it'll be fine. Now, everybody makes judgment mistakes when dollar signs pop up in the center of their eyes, but I think for the most part, we're pretty good at policing our sales by having a little integrity. We're not in this to get anybody hurt. I don't want to sell you a glider just to sell you a glider. I'll wait. I'm not a greedy guy. This is a lifestyle thing. I'm not making millions, and I'm not trying to. I live to fly, and so does everybody here with me. You guys asked about my team, and I didn't get to talk about them, but everybody here is real passionate, and they're serious about your safety first. So that's their own safety, because we've seen the accidents that can happen, and we don't want those to happen to anybody. And I think we can help avoid but we can all make mistakes, so they're not totally avoidable.
That's what we're all
And
about, is safety first in this sport, because if we don't have that and people start getting hurt, it's not good for anyone. So
you're right. You're right. And you know, it just takes witnessing one and you know, so we go to great lengths to make sure we give you everything we can to ensure that you can do it right, make the right choices, weather being a really critical component here. And I think that a lot of people skip out on that. Now, I'm a weather aficionado. It's a hobby. They call me the weatherman, but
I saw that about you, Dave. You know, you were showing me the local weather and how the patterns work. And I believe that's a big part of this, because we have a lot of new guys coming into sport that, you know, are flying midday and they're not ready to be flying midday and they don't understand the weather. And I think weather is a real important part, especially in paragliding, because you learn more of it in paragliding. Paramotoring, I don't know that you learn basic stuff, but you don't really learn enough to really fly in rough conditions.
Well, I think you guys are coached to avoid rough midday conditions.
Yeah.
And that's a smart way to stay safe, right? It's a really smart way to stay safe.
100%, right.
Yeah, one of the greatest instructors I've ever met, Chris Santa Croce, told me that paragliding is totally safe as long as you do it first thing in the morning. And that's when there's no lift, no wind. If you go middle of the day, you're asking to be a part of the dangerous environment. And it does take a set of brass and a little bit of foresight and knowledge. But it's manageable for anybody. And we teach a lot of people how to do it right. And that's because that's what we've been chasing and learning and figuring out through the course of this 20 years. Like, what is this really all about? You know, and I'm not proclaiming to be any great pilot by any means. I'm average. When you look at the guys racing around that are the cutting edge, they're just phenomenal, calculating glides and exit strategies on thermals and turns, and they're just doing it because they love it and it's fun, and the game is real. That sailing calculation, like, and when you do it with others, it gets more fun. And when you do it without the motor, suddenly the challenge of I've accomplished this distance purely on warm air rising, you know, touching clouds,
Crazy.
and like it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy awesome. So
This past week, I got to spend a little bit of time with a flying buddy of many of ours. His name is Todd Falstad. He goes by Yankee Paramotor. And Todd said, you know, one of the things I like to hear most about guests, or a question I like to ask guests, especially for someone like you that's been flying for so long, is what's the most craziest or epic thing that's happened to you in all these years while you were flying?
Yeah. So you had alluded that you were going to ask this question. I started to get my brain going around and around, trying to even remember. We've had some very significant moments. You know, some gray hairs, I think, from some of these, and you know, the craziest stuff. There's different levels here. So I'll mention one that sticks in my mind always, that I'm still perplexed by, even because, you know, I'm trying to figure out this invisible monster, these thermals climbing up in the sky. And I was in Sun Valley, and it was a solo flying day, and we had launched. It was significantly strong. It was probably July, I'm guessing. And I was way high above the peak's 9,000 feet. So when you're launching off the peak at Sun Valley there, you're starting at 9,000 feet. You're interior in mountain ranges. So you have textured turbulent air mass, and you have valley systems. So there's some complexities down low to tear apart the thermals. But when it's pumping in and raging, you're going to 17,999 feet.
Wow.
And so there you are, you know, and I'm just like rocket ship, man. I mean, you're making a turn, and your vario is not making a beep noise, it's screaming, and you're puckered and you're holding on, and you're thinking, holy, I better not fall out of this thing, because I don't know what'll happen, collapse, or, you know, and I'm climbing and climbing and climbing. It's really getting high fast, and I kind of got out of position, is what I can imagine. You know, I'm trying to imagine what happened. But suddenly it sort of like seemed like while I was suspended and safely floating in the air, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't moving forward. I just was stuck. And I didn't have any reference, you know, because I was so high. I didn't have any reference really. And trying to figure this out while my brain's, you know, screaming like, got to do something. This doesn't feel right. Well, so I'm not moving. I'm not turning. I can't. And I'm looking down to my left, and I see someone coming up just as fast as I had just been, you know, screaming up in this thermal, and he's even yelling at me to get out of the way. And I'm yelling back at him, I can't move. I can't, I'm not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden the glider like kicked in and surged and like sucked me in, and I was climbing again. I mean, but it was a long enough period of time that I'm like, where am I? Like, what's going on? And now, so I sat down, I'm like, what the heck? And we know that it's not one thermal that goes up. We know it's several thermals, and they come together and form a bigger one. And where we were, I was so high up, I'm imagining that they might all be one. But I kind of, in discussions, and I'm still, guessing a little bit here, but I think I was caught right below where they come together and form one. So I was in this sort of eddy pocket below a multi-core combo coming from multiple sides, and I just wasn't able to go anywhere, but I was staying right there. And crazy invisible air mass stuff, and it was like still ingrained. I get a little sweaty palms thinking about that.
Were you
moment.
like, what the heck? Like,
dude, I was like full on shitting my bricks. Yeah, I was right above the chairlift terminal, and I'm probably, I think I was close to 13,000 feet, or I was cranked up off of this and climbing strong, and then suddenly I'm just not going anywhere. Like, holy crap. So, Sun Valley happens to be some of the place because it's such a big deal site, super power, super awesome chairlift access, and its complexity of the wind and interior. I went there and I learned to fly tandems, and I went there knowing it would be, not like I'm going to get rich flying tandems in Sun Valley. I'm going to be spending lots of money in a billionaire's town, but quaint little valley, all about recreation, a super place to be. I worked for the ski resort, and I worked for this Fly Sun Valley tandem, and we would go up. I was low man on the totem pole, so that means you get the largest passengers. So you got to work the hard way into the game, and I was always sort of like helping everybody off. So it was one day, we're helping everybody off. We're using a little different launch than normal in this pocket, and everybody's getting great launches, bang, bang, bang. Now my turn. I'm all by myself. And I'm not worried about stuff like that because the skill set's there, but get us all set up. We're all clipped in. And and this point in time, I was wearing a downhill mountain biking helmet. It was a full face. And I'm clipped in. I'm ready to go. I'm like ready to say 1, 2, 3, go. And it suddenly is like dead calm. Absolutely zero air movement. And we're on a mountaintop, it's been flowing and pulsing in. There's the thermic cycle, and here it is. It's just nothing. And I just like panicked. Oh crap. And I immediately just started wrapping the brakes. And just as soon as I got like 3 or 4 of those wraps in, I just threw my arms around my passenger, and we were immediately yanked, boom, right backwards and drug up the hill on my head. So I can laugh because we were okay. This thermal kicked off, just pow, and just ripped my glider up off the ground. And if I hadn't have wrapped the riser,
I was going to say, even with the wraps, it did it.
Yeah, even with the wraps, it did it, and so I'm kind of like lifting myself out. I got the passengers okay, everybody's okay. I can't believe we're okay. And I'm getting us out. Here's the guards from the lift tower coming running over to see if we're okay. It was that significant. And I look, and there's this dust devil. It's just thick and strong, full of the dust from there. And it was a real dragon that I narrowly escaped. And that's the way we look at thermals. It's like this nasty dragon that can bite you if you're not paying attention. And how did I know? I didn't really know. I just had like some sixth sense that we were going to get axed. And so credit to the gal, and she was just a tourist. She was tough. We're going. And so okay, I cleaned up. I had dirt that just packed the inside of my helmet and stuff, but not a scratch on us. And I set it up again. And we launched and we flew and we had a great flight. And I didn't do a long one because everybody was already on the ground for 30 minutes, and they're wondering where the hell is this person that was supposed to come right behind them. And so, of course, we get to the ground. And once we're on the ground, she was just shaking and quaking and white. She had just had near-death experience, And for me, that was Sun Valley. It was kind of regular that we would encounter these dragons. So to me, I was like, well, yeah, we got away with that one. But, that was one of the most wild things that ever happened to me, but I wasn't in the air flying. So, the thermal, that getting stuck in the thermal way up there, that was one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me flying. I just couldn't figure out how to, and probably the answer was speed bar. Knowing what I know now, the answer was speed bar. And I would have gone forward and probably wouldn't have sat there for as long as I did going, what the hell's going on?
Dave, past the top of the hour. There's 2 questions I want to ask you before we go
All
into the wheel and give away a prize. The first question is, you've been flying so long in so many places. Is there any place in this world that you haven't flown yet that's still out there for you to want to fly? Or if there's more than one, what would be the top place?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I drool about several places, and I don't have the skill set to go to Queixadilla in Brazil right now. I'm not up to game. I don't have the glider, but I see these guys going for the biggest, longest cross-country distance, and my ego still wants that stuff. But I like Europe, and I've toured through Europe several times with the Red Bull X Alps race, and as the supporter, and I got to fly several places, but Europe, in Austria, they've got green clover fields everywhere, and lifts to the top, and they take lunch break, so I was pleasantly surprised doing tandems there. They'll turn the lift off. Everybody just sits down up top at the cafe, have a schnitzel, and take 30 minutes, and then they turn the lift back on, and we go back to flying. It's awesome.
Very cool. All right, last question. What was it like to train with John Ripa?
Oh, come on.
He took direction pretty well, though.
I had a great guy in my ear. Alessandro was fantastic. He was one of the instructors there, and let me tell you, he knew right where all the lift was, anywhere on the mountainside. And I just listened to him in the radio, and he got me doing some small cross countries. And then he's like, "You want to try to go?" And I said, "Yeah." And I got pretty far, and I was pretty impressed not knowing the area. But
hey, you did great, and it's a credit to you for showing up with the skill set that you had. So make it easy for the launch sequence, and that's once we have that confidence, then putting you in the air mass is the easy part. And having a guy like Alejandro, who's an extremely experienced comp pilot, coach you through some thermalin, which is what we're really good at, one-on-one radio control. I can see what your glider's doing, and I know what that means, and so I can say,
when you're standing on the cliff, you're looking right out at the paragliders. You see the birds, where the birds are flying in the lift, and the level you're at off the side of the mountain's phenomenal.
Part of what we've got really famous for here is about on your 5th flight during your solo program, we had you in the sky for about an hour thermaling over the landing zone.
Yep.
It's pretty easy to do here in Tennessee if you get connected to the right sequence of weather. It's magic.
Well, Dave,
it certainly is.
John was calling me every day, and he had nothing but wonderful things to say about training over at Fly Camp. So he absolutely loved it. And we haven't officially congratulated John on the show. So a couple of weeks ago, he earned his P3 rating.
Oh, right on.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Yeah, we finally got that paperwork done, huh, John?
Yep. Finally.
Well, as I look at my notebook of questions that I wrote down for tonight, I still have half the questions left. So we're not going to go through all of them. We're not going to keep everybody up and keep you up. But I'll tell you what we're going to do is right now I'm going to put in the chat the Zoom meeting ID and the password. So if you'd like to come on and here in just a few moments and ask Dave any other questions that weren't answered tonight, you can definitely do that. Love to say hi to everybody as well. Dave, I'll give you a second to breathe as I turn to Dave Ruff, who's been working on the wheel. And again, tonight's prize, you get a choice of either a COVID mask from Fly PPG, or a t-shirt from Fly My PPG, or a t-shirt from One Up Adventures. So you'll tell me in the chat what you'd like. Send me a Facebook Messenger with your address, and I'll go ahead and get that out to you as soon as possible. Back to you, Dave. Ruff. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. Yep. Yeah, I've got to figure out all this stuff. Can you see the screen?
See the screen, sir.
Sweet. All right. Well, there are all the names right there. We'll start at the top real quick. I think I got this on probably about a 1.5-minute spin, so you're going to have a lot to talk about.
Serious? All right. Well, let me just repeat what I said at the top of the show. Next week, we've got Greg Anthony Harris joining us live in the Our Paramotor Nation studio. Also, Robert Michaels, who's on the show tonight in the chat. Make sure you check him out on Thursday night. Dave Ruff for After Dark on Wednesday. And then tomorrow night, Andrea Legancy is going to be on Clear Prop TV. So Hey, that's what all these shows are here for. It's for us to learn and fly safer, whether it's with the motor on your back or without. Is that a minute and a half yet?
Nope, here we go.
Gosh, it is.
Hey, Dave Hanning, would you come back again and talk some
Oh
more?
yeah, you bet, absolutely. Oh, for
All right,
sure.
That sounds great.
You let me know when. I'll be here. You guys are fun to talk to.
There you go. Tyler Vowles.
Congratulations.
All right.
Congratulations, Tyler Vowles. You are the winner of I have no idea.
Well, Tyler, if you want to reach out to me, you can do so. Actually, I think Tyler might even be in the waiting room already. I just saw a name Tyler just popped up. So if he is, you can go ahead and tell me what you want. If not, go ahead and send either Facebook Messenger me or send an email to David Wolfe, WOLFE 51 at gmail.com. It's been a great show, man. I really appreciate you being here. And you know what? 90 some episodes. He's the first paraglider that's been on the show. Strictly paraglider, not counting the couple flights of paramotor. But yeah, it's always been a paraglider or someone like that.
I'm appreciative. Thank you very much for having me. It's been really cool.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for coming, bud.
Dave Ruff?
Yeah, I need you to save my honor. Actually, both you and Rickman. Now, I mean, this past weekend you saw me fly the 2 tandems I did, and there was a question of whether they would fly tandem with me or not. Now, Rickman, I know you didn't go up with me, but I know that you saw me fly. But Dave Wolf's son, Brennan, did go up with me. Now, Dave, at any time has Brennan said he'd never fly with me again?
Brennan's been in therapy for the last 3 days.
Jerk. That's it. I'm out of
All
here.
right, let's go to the after show, everyone. Thanks again, Dave Hanning.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you.
Dave, stick around for a minute.
You bet.
Stick around, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next
Thanks,
Sunday night.
everyone.
Dave Ruff did an awesome job flying that tandem. Good job, buddy. Everybody should go fly with Dave Ruff. He is a trike flyer. Have a good night, buddy. Dave, that was an awesome show.